Welcome to NerdFactor. My name's Paul, and you guys have probably heard my voice before on the voiceovers for everything, but today we're starting our new format, and in celebration of our new format, we're going to be talking about the history of beer. Beer? Now you're talking my kind of language. We got America right here. We got Natty Light. We got Busch Light. That's my kind. Why do I sound different than you? This is bullshit. Low production motherfucker. I swear to God, if you treat me different than this, I will quit right now. It's my twin brother Billy. He's not from the area. He wants to be a part of the videos, so we told him we'd give him some airtime. Like I said earlier, what we're gonna be talking about today is beer. Now, beer was made mainly from hops, barley, sugars, and yeast, but there are so many different ways that beer is made, you really can't pin it on one type or one form of creating beer. Beer is actually so popular, it is the third most drank beverage in the world. That's bringing it behind water and tea. Tea? Water? Who the drinks that shit? Billy really likes his beer. I mean, he's what we would call a bushfire. You know what a bushfire? He's sort of like a bushfire alcoholic, where when he breathes, he makes bushfires. Now, archaeologists actually can pin the first invention of beer, or the first time they've actually seen beer used, was actually in 9,500 BC in the Neolithic era. And in 5000 BC, Uruk, which is now modern-day Iraq, places used to actually pay workers with beer instead of money. In Europe, the Celts and the Germanic tribes actually pushed beer along the whole European region, and that was around 3000 BC. So beer is not a new invention. Beer is actually very, very old and has been being produced, and it's transformed and changed in so many ways since its very beginning in 9,500 BC. There's just so many different iterations. Almost all ancient civilizations have their own signature form of beer. Beer was actually so popular that there's a patron saint of hop pickers for the creation of beer. Speaking of the Middle Ages, though, that is whenever hops were actually the predominant ingredient used in making of beer. Moving along the timeline of humanity, though, beer was actually one of the most important aspects to the beginning of civilizations or colonies. The Pilgrims themselves, they actually almost died because they didn't have access to proper brewing techniques. They came here and they didn't actually have an idea of how much they needed to last a trip because they didn't know how long that they were going to be sailing to the New World. Once the Pilgrims got here, they actually had to start agriculture solely for the brewing of beer, which is just astounding to me because they couldn't drink water because they didn't realize that boiling water is what made it safe to drink. And that was actually what made beer safe to drink, is because whenever you add all of the ingredients into the pot, you have to boil it, which then sanitizes the water. They just didn't know that then. They just knew if you drink water, you pooed yourself to death. So that made beer one of the biggest driving factors for the beginning of civilizations or cities or towns. Beer was a requirement back in those days. Speaking of the Americas and the Pilgrims, the American Revolutionary War was actually inspired, or not necessarily inspired, but a main driving force for the American Revolution was the taxation of beer and alcohol by the British Crown. It led to discontent. The farmers were losing money, the brewers were losing money, the people that sold it were losing so much money because it wasn't a cheap tax. A lot of businesses were crushed. And moving further on to that is Prohibition in the 1920s. That was bad. Prohibition essentially made all consumption of alcohol illegal. Almost every brewery went out of business. Now, there were some that stayed afloat. They kind of knew it wasn't going to work. Sort of like, I forget what company it was. There was a company that the day Prohibition was repealed, there was whiskey being shipped. Whiskey sometimes takes 2 to 3 years if it's made properly because it has to sit in a barrel and absorb all the flavors. But I'm digressing. Alcohol and beer is such a driving factor for essentially everyone. It's been a part of humanity since basically the beginning of civilization. So you take that away or try and hurt it. Prime example was the moonshiners in the 1920s. Those guys made a killing. They went around the system and made so much money. And I mean, ask Billy. Moonshine, well, golly, I can go on day out that. I mean, it is good. It is the gift of God. I still make in my backyard. Don't tell no one, no. I'll make that. I mean,
Turn the video off. Cut it. Cut it. Actually, no. You should probably make a video on moonshine. I ain't gonna show you how, but making a history video on moonshine, I could talk about that for days.
Wow, actually, Billy, that's a good idea. We might actually do that. To give you guys an idea of how popular beer is today, China was actually polled in 2010, I think it was, and 45 billion liters of beer a year is consumed. That's a very big number. The human mind kind of gets that number, but they can't really understand what that means. How to picture 45 billion liters of beer is something your mind can't understand. It's just a lot. Now, throughout time, beer has been a relatively simple thing to make. There were actually purity laws implemented in Germany back in the Middle Ages in the brewing process of beer, which limited the amount of ingredients that were allowed to be used in the creation of beer. I can't pronounce what that law is. It's in German. It's a big word, and I'm not good at pronouncing other languages. If you can't tell, I butchered that name from Iraq. But yeah, beer was so simple. There wasn't a lot to it. I mean, I'm not discrediting any of the old brewers. I mean, it was a master art. It was a master craft. But there weren't different flavors, different flavor profiles up until the early, I think 2010, 2011 whenever craft beers really blew up everywhere. Craft beers, although frowned upon and you're called a hipster if you enjoy them, I myself enjoy them. I got tired of drinking the same 5 beers that were available at my beer store until craft beers got really popular. But that's mainly the history of beer. I could go in depth, but there's just so much. My cat distracted me. There's just so much to learn about it. There's so much to do. I'm actually going to be listing the Wikipedia link below and a couple other sites where you can learn about what events in history were directly influenced by beer. There's actually a special that Mike Rowe did that I forget the name of it. I'll link that too if I can safely do that without it being illegal. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite beer is. If you like beer, if you hate it. Beer is a good thing, but it's also led to many bad things like divorce, murder, DUI, car crashes, people killed. It's something that's going to be a constant. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think of beer and what you thought of this episode. And throw me a like if you like it. Subscribe if you like the new format. Let me know if you hate it. Well, too f***ing bad. You're just kind of stuck there. But let me know. I also have something different for you guys here. This is for the Enslave. This is actually called Midas Touch. They found in King Midas's tomb, they went into one of the pots and they did a molecular breakdown of all the ingredients used or what they could find. And a molecular archaeologist did. And they broke it down and they actually found the ingredients. Mind you, they don't know in what levels they were used. This is by Dogfish Head. It's called Midas Touch. I've drank it before. It's really good. It's kind of sweeter. It's a really good beer. Now, it's carbonated, which I don't think that beers back then were actually carbonated. I don't think they're carbonated, but still, regardless, it's a very good beer. Check it out. Subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.